Welcome to part two of the Fishbowl with Joe Harris. We're going to talk all about the differences between the NBA and the NFL as far as player power. We're going to talk about what he thinks of his commissioner and LeBron. The NBA seems like a players' league.
Yeah.
Is that player-coach relationship different in the NBA? It's more like peer-to-peer?
Yeah, it's definitely much more of a level of communication as to what the practices are going to be like. Kind of because the coaches, as much as they want to set up all this stuff in the NBA, they get it to a point where they want to talk with the guys on the team. Especially they want to take it aside, like maybe with us in Brooklyn, it's going to be like a Damari Carroll, Jared Dudley, and Ed Davis, veteran guys that got a good pulse on the team. Take them aside, say, hey, how are we feeling today?
Yeah.
What do we want to do for practice wise? You know, and that's in collaboration with the coaches and the sports performance team as well, because they're the ones that are measuring. You have all the data that's being produced over the course of the year. They can kind of tell, okay, this is a point where probably we need to dial it back a little bit or ramp it up.
Well, it sounds like it's more of a partnership. In the NFL, it's still like, man,
very much the coaches.
Well, a coach in the NFL, he's liable to ask you, hey, how do you guys feel this morning?
Yeah.
You might read him the riot act, and you're going to be out in pads for 2 hours anyways.
Because you need to toughen up a little bit.
It's in one ear, out the other, and a lot of his lip service, I feel that way in the football culture.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more of a culture of you work for me.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you guys in the NBA seem to work together. And that might start with the commissioner, who we've I mean, in general, there's less players on a team. So
I think it's easier to sort of regulate and manage maybe a little bit, just because, like you said, there is only, I guess now it's 17 guys on each team.
Yep. 53 on the active roster
exactly.
in the NFL. And of course, in the NFL, we work very hard physically. You guys work just as hard, just as a different physicality. Guys are always going to try to get out of certain shit, especially younger guys. So it's hard for coaches, I think, sometimes to know, like, is this guy giving me something because he's lazy, or is he giving me something because he's truly reading the pulse of the team? But the commissioner, Adam Silver.
Yeah.
You guys, he's well respected in your league.
Oh, yeah, extremely well respected. I think it's exactly what you said, though, is because there's a level of transparency with him in the league.
Right.
And with our players' union and just like the guys that are playing. He's the type of commissioner where, certain big decisions and stuff that are going on, he wants to keep people informed.
Right.
So guys know. So people that are involved, our union reps on our team, they're coming back from meetings, being in conversation, with Adam. There was times over last offseason where Jared Dudley just reached out to him, wanted to go sit down with him and talk. He's the type of commissioner, he's got that open door policy. Guys are able to come in, sit down with him, pick his brain a little bit and figure out what's going on. And I think it's pretty unique when you have a relationship that way. And it's the best thing for the league, though, because he has a pulse on as what's going on. He's not doing things for his benefit or what he wants to do. He's doing the things that benefits everyone collectively, but primarily for the players first and foremost.
Right.
Yeah.
And you think the transparency is the number one
I think that's
quality
the biggest thing. I think that's why people respect him so much, too.
Yeah. Now tell me how you really feel about him.
We'll save that for a beer later.
I'm fucking with you. Everything I hear about the guy, I mean, and you watch from a distance, but, it's like people looking at the NFL with Goodell. Maybe it's not as bad as people that are casually watching the game would lead you to believe it is, and maybe it's not as good in the NBA, but everybody I talk to says, no, it's legitimate. People really like Silver. So.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, obviously, I'm not there all the time, but from what I've seen and the way that he interacts with people and the level of respect that he treats everyone with, I remember meeting him my first year in Brooklyn, so I hadn't even played at all in Cleveland. He has no reason to know who I even am at all. I'm coming into the locker room to get some work in Brooklyn, and Adam is getting a tour with our front office, and they're walking around the facility. Adam stops, comes over. I'm the only one in the locker room. Comes over, says hello, introduces himself, starts talking about Virginia. And he's like, even though I'm a Duke guy, he's like, I respect what you did at UVA. And I was like, this guy has he's got so much going on. He has no reason to come up to a guy that hasn't played at all in the NBA and show him that level of respect.
It's really hard to like a Duke guy, but he's like
that. Exactly. He's a pretty likable guy, but we won't hold the Duke stuff against him too much.
So you talked about, nobody knowing who you were in Cleveland. I think people know who you are now, and they should. You talked about Cleveland. You end up in Cleveland. You end up there probably at the wrong time for you personally.
Yeah.
And you end up in the D League.
Yep. Yeah.
What's that like for your ego as a young player, because everybody's got one, and everybody as a young guy is really trying to just stay above water. What does that do, and what do you need to to be dealt that blow, how do you get over it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, so I was drafted at Cleveland. Originally, it looked like it was going to be a young team with a new coach. Honestly, it looked like a good opportunity for me to have a chance to play. And then a couple weeks after the draft, LeBron decides he's coming back to Cleveland, brings in a whole new wave of players. Guys are getting traded left and right. I remember our summer league team.
So you had a new GM named LeBron James.
Yeah. Oh man, it was wild. I mean, on our summer league team, I think like one of our games, 4 guys got traded.
Yeah.
So like they had to just like stop playing in the game, and they were just like shipped out, and everyone's like,
so
"What's
like,
going
hey,
on?"
Go grab lunch.
Clean all this space, and then all of a sudden LeBron comes back while we're at summer league. Man, our coaches, I mean, you can imagine the celebration that all these guys had when LeBron decided he was coming back. So it totally transformed, and it went from being, this young sort of developing team where you can kind of learn through your mistakes to, all right, this is a championship team. This is a win now team, and if you're not helping this team win championships, then you're not going to play. And it might have hindered my development a little bit, but at the same time, it's like I picked up on a lot of really good habits, just observing and watching these guys. I was with Sean Marion, Richard Jefferson, Mike Miller, James Jones, LeBron, obviously.
So veteran heavy.
Veteran heavy. Guys that had played 10 plus years in the league and had a lot of success playing. And so I was able just to pick everybody's brain, pick up on good habits, and I was lucky too. They all kind of took me under their wing, especially James Jones and Mike Miller. These guys like helped me out a ton.
What'd you learn from Mike? Because you have a few things in common.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like James and Mike, I mean, they were both in the league for being shooters. So that was the biggest thing for me, is like I basically just kind of followed them around all over the place. But the biggest thing with them was, all right, if you're a rookie and you're coming in, nobody should beat you into the facility.
Right.
You should be getting your work in early, and you should be the last one to leave. Right. And I kind of built like sort of these consistent. I laid like a foundation of good habits, and they talked about just doing them consistently. And then on top of that, they were talking about being deliberate in my practice. So it wasn't sort of like mistaking any sort of activity for achievement. I first got in, I wanted to work out for hours, do this. I need to work harder.
But
I
wasn't working smart?
Exactly, and I wasn't working, as efficient as I probably could have. And I was sort of just, I really was mistaking the activity for achievement instead of just like getting deliberate practice.
Yeah, it's funny. I tell young guys the same thing. Practice squad guys, or even guys who are vets, and they're like in their 7th, 8th year, they're talking to me as an older 10th, 11th year guy, like, they see me practice, or they see an older guy practice and say, like, don't waste a rep. And by that I mean, working your ass off on a rep physically doesn't mean that you're accomplishing anything. It just means you're practicing hard. You're out there fucking exercising like the dude walking in the mall, like a mall walker, or somebody working out at ACAC.
Yeah.
Or you're just exercising. Be intentional in what you do. Like, work on something every day. Work on a skill.
Yeah, there is a difference, and like I think once you get like to a certain point, it's hard for younger guys to realize that. And like being a veteran guy and playing for such a long time, you probably were able to figure it out at some point in time, and that's why it's like beneficial for the younger guys to hear it from somebody that has like an older perspective on it, and that's what was so valuable for me. So although I didn't play a ton in Cleveland, I was lucky to have guidance from good mentors like Mike Miller or James Jones or Richard Jefferson.
And that's the cool thing. I don't know how it is in basketball, but in football, the way that the CBA has been and with the veteran minimum contracts, it's becoming a young man's game. So veterans are hard to come by. We were like dinosaurs. When I came to the league, I was surrounded by 10-year guys.
Yeah.
Now, by the time I was in my 8th year, depending on where I would be, I'd have the closest parking spot to the building. Is there any move in the NBA to get the veterans out, or is it because of it's less of an injury liability? They don't mind having veterans?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's exactly. That's a good point, actually. It's like, in basketball, guys 31, 32, you're not
still young.
You're still young. You're not quite as worried about their body breaking down, especially with some of these guys, the way they take care of their bodies now, and how much sports, medicine has advanced. You have a lot of guys that are playing at a super high level, 34, 35 years old. But it is interesting because it's like you have that huge age disparity. I mean, I look at our team last year, and we had, Jared Dudley, 33, 34 years old. But then we also had Rodion Skurix, who's 19 years old, And you need to have the balance, though. Having Jared around, even though, from a statistical point of view, he wasn't contributing a ton, he was as valuable as anyone on our team.
Right.
Just because of the voice that he lent, the knowledge, the understanding of the game, the understanding of the league. He just a lot of valuable insight that was super helpful to especially a really young core of the Brooklyn Nets.
Did you, when you were in Cleveland before you got to Brooklyn, did you learn anything from LeBron, or was there one story that kind of encompasses his work ethic or what he's about?
I mean, yeah. So again, going back to what Mike and James had told me about being the first guy in and the last guy to leave, the only person I really had to beat a lot of times was LeBron. And it's kind of crazy because he's the best player in the world, but it's like there were a lot of times where like I would try and leave, 2 hours before practice was even starting, and LeBron is already, in the weight room, doing stuff, and then he's going to the training room. And the thing I learned from him, even just watching, was how like meticulous he was at taking care of his body. I've never seen somebody like devote basically everything that he does in his life is so he can be a better basketball player and play at the highest level. He's trying to get to 100% and recover faster than everybody else.
And that's the hardest thing, especially as you age, I'm sure, in basketball, and with the physicality and athleticism that he plays with, it's not like certain other players who are going to be a lot less active on the court. I mean, maybe not so much this year in LA, but like...
I mean, he's a tank, though, in the way that he moves and with the force that he moves.
That's a bigger body. It's harder to recover. I mean, recovery is everything. So you got 24 hours. I know guys that are spending time in their hyperbaric chamber watching film. You try to do it all, and then when you have a family, it gets even harder. So that's the amazing thing to me is he's a family man.
Everything,
He's balancing his family, but to your point, he's working his ass off.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, he's obviously one of the best basketball players that's ever lived, but I would argue that he's probably the best athlete in the world at taking care of his body.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest modality you saw him doing?
To be honest, a lot of his stuff was pretty straightforward. It wasn't like he was like reinventing the wheel or anything like that. He just did everything so consistently. There wasn't one day where he was just like, I'm going to take this day just to...
Because Tom Brady's got some weird shit. I mean,
that's what I've seen.
Tom's very meticulous.
Yeah.
But Tom's going to be on some like weird, juice bar plans. Or like, he's not eating like certain foods that...
I don't know. Maybe LeBron's putting something in that wine that he drinks.
What kind of wine does he drink?
I don't know.
It's got to be
my
expensive
taste.
shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching part 2 of the Fishbowl with Joe Harris. Part 3 is going to be all about Brooklyn and is he a hipster?